Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Welcome back to Bookstore-Bees.
As a
Yeah, I
dog
know.
person, I take offense to that.
No, it's a total ripoff of Carol Baskin. Come on. Baskins? Tiger King? Anybody?
No.
Bueller?
Uh-uh.
Bueller? No? Okay.
No.
Well, forget it.
I know of it, but I never watched it.
I'm just gonna leave. Anyway, welcome back, everyone who is joining us. We missed a week, so this one's not going to air until a week after. Well,
No,
wait, are we
I'll
putting
wait.
up next Tuesday?
I'll put it up as soon as I can.
Okay,
Okay.
I don't know when that's gonna be. Yeah.
someday.
But it's
Okay.
late. It wasn't out yesterday.
Yeah,
So-
it is late. Because it was supposed
We
to be
screwed
out
the
on
pooch.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Did screw the
I
We
screwed the
pooch.
It was
Screwed
me.
the pooch.
Sorry,
Um,
everyone.
It happens though, because Rose and I are both in school. Steph is working full time, and I'm in a different time zone. Things get complicated, so
Mhm.
it happens. But anyway, so this week we are back with If We Were Villains, ML Rio. We are discussing Act 2 and Act 3. And yeah.
Yes.
Hey guys.
2 and 3. And
2 and 3. Let's make that
And
clear.
3.
Can we just talk about what happened?
Yeah, I'm a dum-dum and only read Act 2. And then the day that we were supposed to record, I made a comment in our group chat. And Steph was a smart one and put it together and was like, wait a second. You didn't read Act 3, did you? And I was like, wait. Fuck. I totally didn't read Act 3, and I had like 45 minutes, and it was just not going to happen. So yeah, we're late this week.
Meanwhile, Amy and I are struggling to get through Act 3 on time, and we're like,
Yeah.
wait a second. She's not talking about Act 3 at
I
all.
know. I was like, oh my god, you guys, I don't know if I'm going to be done by the time we record. Like, I'm trying to get through it. And then. But, it's okay.
It
What are you gonna
happens.
do?
It happens.
Also,
But now
let me
I've read
just-
it, so.
So, yeah, Acts 2 and 3. Steph, I know, do you want to talk a little bit about where your head is at? I know Rose and I are both somewhat enthusiastic about this book. We're both kind of like nerding out about the whole just like Shakespearean aspect, and Rose and her like academia books, whatever. So we're both kind of into this, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your feelings?
Well, I don't hate the book. Let me start off with that. I don't hate the book. We're looking at a strong 3-star right now for me
Okay.
at where we left off. Okay. I really like mystery books. I feel that I know the ending of this one. And I
Okay.
feel that I have known the ending of this one since
whole
like the
time.
beginning of Act 2 at least. I have a lot of theories of what might happen, and if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit it, and this will be I will like the book, but I'm struggling with
Predictability.
predictability, and also I'm kind of bored when reading it. Like the day that we were supposed to record, I was literally falling asleep on my couch reading it because I was just like, this is repetitive, or I don't know what it is about it. Like, I appreciate how it's written. I like a lot of the dialogue and stuff, and I don't know what it is about this book, but
It's just not your jam.
it's just not, and that's fine. Like,
It's totally fine.
we're not all gonna agree on books on this
Totally.
podcast, and that's fine.
Mhm.
I don't think it's, like I said, I don't hate it. So if ML Rio ever wrote another book or something, I would probably still read it to see if she could do something else, maybe not Shakespearean. Here's my thing. I've read a lot of Shakespeare, and I enjoy Shakespeare, and I think that's also my problem, is because she's using the Shakespearean, not trope, but technique, I guess, to a T. I can tell you my theory. Do you want to know my theory?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. Here we go. I think James killed Richard. Oliver took the fall for James because he's in love with James.
Mm-hmm.
This is based off a Shakespearean tragedy. Therefore, there's going to be... The murder is not the tragedy. The tragedy will be, like, Oliver telling James his feelings at some point and they're not being reciprocated, or James dies or Oliver dies. Somebody else dies before that love affair can become something. That's my theory.
So if you go back to our first episode, I had called James being the murderer and
Yes.
Oliver going to jail for him.
Yes.
Like, even
I think from the
before...
initial James-Richard conflict, we were all kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I just think there's going to be another tragedy having to do with the Oliver and the James relationship. And I think it's too on the money with the Shakespearean tragedy of what it is.
So, I agree. But I love it.
Which is totally fine.
Yeah.
I just think it's too predictable, I guess.
Like,
I don't know.
Even the last scene of Act 3, I think, is where our second tragedy is coming in, when they're doing Romeo and Juliet. And Oliver is using his lines to tell James that he loves him, and then James is using his lines to, like, show his love for Ren. And you can feel the angst there with their real personalities that are, like, coinciding with the play's characters.
For sure.
So yeah, I definitely think James being in love with Ren and Oliver being in love with James and the whole triangle is the second tragedy. But also, Oliver mentions in one of the prologues that the only person that he's had contact with for the last 10 years has been Philippa. And he doesn't talk to anyone else, which I thought was really weird because of how close him and James are.
Yeah.
See, but maybe something tragic happened with James.
Yeah. So something has to have happened.
Maybe James died. Maybe
James
ran away. I don't know.
So also,
James, what if the tragedy is that James pins it on Oliver when Oliver is in love with him and thought that they were like best friends?
I don't think Oliver would have gone quietly at that point, because Oliver's been keeping all of this a secret up until now. And if he got pinned with it instead of volunteering to go down for it, I don't think that would happen.
I also don't think that would happen, only because it will go against the Shakespearean way.
Well, maybe ML Rio has tricks.
Maybe she is, but so far everything is like to the book of Shakespeare, which again is cool, and I can appreciate that aspect of it. I just don't know what it is about. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is that is making me not love this book, because everything is screaming that I should. Because I do like Shakespeare, I do like dark academia. Like, I should love this book. So I'm not 100% sure as to why I am not. I can't articulate that for whatever reason.
Hopefully that changes. I hope that you like it by the end.
I would love to. I want to keep reading, and I want to know, like, I'm not giving up on the book. Like I said, I would love for something weird to happen where I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm back in again. I also
want to mention, so we were talking about how he hasn't talked to anyone else except for Philippa, but in the prologue of Act 2, when Oliver shows up back at the school with Colburn and Philippa for the first time, he says, "Where is he?" I ask when I catch up with Philippa. "He wanted to wait at the Boar's Head, but I wasn't sure you should go back yet." So one of the boys is waiting in Boar's Head for Oliver. And I don't know if it's Alexander or if it's James. And I'm hoping it's James, obviously, because I ship Oliver and James all day. So one of the boys is waiting for him. So James he could have died, and it might be Alexander. But
don't you feel like if he would have gone away for James, James would have come to visit him?
Maybe. I don't know.
What's that? It reminds me of that. What am I trying to say? I can't think of the actual play by Shakespeare, but remember the end of Shakespeare in Love? The movie Shakespeare in Love?
It's been a minute since I've seen it. But
when Gwyneth Paltrow's character, he's talking about how she's on a shipwreck, but she's actually like going on to a different island. I can't remember what the play that part is based off of. But essentially, again, another tragedy where the love of your life you think could have died, but maybe to get away from all the drama, like maybe he faked his death. Maybe James faked his death.
Kind of like Juliet tried to fake her death, and then Romeo killed himself because Juliet was dead.
Yeah, for the life of me, I can't think of which Shakespeare play that's based off of. But again, tragedy, another Shakespearean tragedy.
And let me just look up Shakespeare titles.
Which I might like it if that happens. Because even though I kind of just predicted it just now while talking about it with you guys, I think I would still be okay with predicting that part of it. I don't know.
We'll just have to wait and see. See, I'm really liking it because so far it's been very character development heavy, and I love really well-rounded, like deep characters. I still want there to be some plot, but I love character development. If a book is plot heavy and all the characters are flat, I'm like, I don't really care. So I'm really enjoying this.
I will say, though, that I still want more from Oliver as the narrator. Like, she gave us little breadcrumbs along the way, you know, like, when he'd look at James naked in the shower and get, like, a twinge in his stomach, or, you know, like, there were breadcrumbs and things like that. But we never get any, like, internal dialogue, like, when he's looking at Meredith, how he actually feels, or... You know what I mean? Like, we really don't ever get to connect all that much with Oliver when we're supposed to be inside his head. So
I think there's probably a reason for that. There's probably a reason for that. Well, I think we're not getting his internal monologue so that the ending will hopefully be more, I don't know, exciting.
I know, but I'm just wondering if it would have been more effective to just have it be like third person, or even like third person omniscient. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. I just wish Oliver had more of a spine. I want him to be more. Like, I feel like he's got so much more potential, and instead he's just kind of like giving up to be this like supporting character and like not telling anyone anything about himself and just kind of like hiding on the sidelines.
Yeah. I agree.
And I don't like Meredith at all.
I don't either.
I want more Philippa, though. I really like her. She's pretty cool.
She's one of the only people we don't really know. Like, she hasn't really been in much. She's just kind of been like in the background the whole time.
Yeah, and they mention that too when Oliver is telling the story to Colborne, and Colborne mentions how much does she know in reference to Philippa. And Oliver says she knows everything. And Colburn is surprised. And Oliver says, well, everyone always dismisses Philippa or, like, forgets about Philippa. So I feel like she's such a bigger character. But she's kind of, like, mysterious and, like, on the sidelines. But, like, intentionally to kind of, like, be a little sneaky. She's a little sneak.
Yeah, maybe she'll come into play more in the next act. So at the end of Act 2... we find out, spoiler alert, at the end of the end of Act 2, right? We find out that Richard is in the water.
Almost dead.
They think he's dead, and then Ren says, oh God. Oh no, James, oh God, he's still alive. How'd you guys feel at that point?
Underwhelmed a little bit. Like, I knew that it was going to be Richard. The fact that he was still alive was a little shocking. I thought that he was just going to be dead. But I like that he was still alive because it added that suspense or between the characters. Like, were they going to help him? Were they going to argue about it? And then he was just going to drown and obviously that's kind of what happened. They decided to do nothing and just let him drown. But I liked that aside that happened with all of the characters to, like, decide if they were gonna let him live or let him die.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it was a little overacting on James on James's part. To be
I didn't
like,
think about that.
We have to save him, you guys. What are we doing? Like, we gotta get him out.
Yeah.
I was like, shut up, James.
I wonder
like, we
if
all know you want him dead.
maybe like James and Richard got in a fight, and then but like Richard hadn't fallen in the lake yet, and like James just left him, and then Richard stumbled into the lake because he was drunk and beat up with his face smashed in, and then James was like, oh shit, he's gonna die and I'm the cause of it, and that's why he wanted to help him.
I don't know, though. I think James was vomiting in the shower, not because he was too drunk, but because he had done something.
I thought about
and
that
he
as
was
well, yeah.
Sick to his stomach.
And that's
I
part of
agree.
the reason why he got back in the showers, to hide from Oliver, because otherwise he would not have been able to keep his shit together.
Maybe to wash off the blood.
I think that's why he was in the shower to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then he also mentioned that there might have been tears, like James might have been crying, but you couldn't tell because he was in the shower. And I initially thought it was because of Oliver and Meredith, but maybe it was because he just murdered Richard.
Yeah, because he seems to have a thing for Ren, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
And if Ren got thrown across the yard by Richard that night.
Oh,
But then I also thought it was Alex, because so Alex, Oliver, and James make that pact to go basically beat up Richard that night.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Oliver fell through. So then I was thinking, oh, maybe James and Alex actually met up and this is the outcome. But then we find out that Alex was with Colin, his name, the third year.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to have just been James all by himself.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just interested to hear how it went down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just really hoping for a twist. Like, I just really hope that all of this isn't as it seems. Like, I'm just really, really hoping that there comes a point where we are all like, holy smokes. I did not see that coming.
Agreed. That's what I'm waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
Although, again, there are things that I like about it. Like you mentioned, Rose, you were kind of underwhelmed that it was Richard, because we were all like, it's obviously going to be Richard. But I did I had like a moment of, oh, it's kind of cool that he's not dead, because that adds a little bit of, well, maybe it's not Richard then. Mm-hmm. But then that was also what? Hold on. Was that 100 pages in already at that point? And so for me, when they were like, he's not dead.
But I feel like
the very end. So for me, it was also like, okay, but we're also
79.
this far into the book and we still don't know who's dead. So I had like the twofer. I was kind of like, that's cool that we don't know and that he's alive. So we still don't know who died. But at the same time, like, fuck, when are we going to know who died? Like, come on.
I also feel like if it wasn't 100 pages in, we wouldn't have enough of an attachment to the characters to really feel anything if one of them died. Like, I think it needs to be this far into the story. If it had happened any earlier, I wouldn't have cared as much, I guess.
I can see that too.
Yeah, I suppose. So anyway, Richard's in the water. Then they all decide to let him drown in his own blood.
What a way to die. What a way to die.
With all your, like, quote unquote,
with all of your friends.
Just standing there watching you.
Which is totally what they talked about in
Caesar.
Act 1 about Caesar, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true.
And he was Caesar.
So that was foreshadowing, yeah.
Yeah.
They just watched him aspirate in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go into Act 3. And I don't even remember what happened in Act 3.
I was struggling to stay awake, so you might have to remind me about the beginning. I remember the end of Act 3. You might have to remind me of the beginning of Act 3.
Things I remember about Act 3. Oliver goes home.
Oh, yeah.
His sister has an eating disorder, and he has to pay for school.
Mm-hmm.
James shows up at his house, and they get teased when they're found in Oliver's bed.
Yep.
Oliver turns down Meredith for James, finally. They do Romeo and Juliet. Everyone at school hates all of them. And Oliver kind of tells James through Romeo and Juliet that he loves him, and James tells Ren. Also, Ren is sick because Richard died. That's Act 3 in a nutshell.
Yeah. Pretty good summary.
Yeah. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
It all came back to me as you were you were doing that.
It's all coming back. It's all coming back to. Such a good song. Do you remember the music video for that? Oh my god,
Yes.
Celine Dion, dude. What a queen. What a queen.
I do not remember the music video.
You need to watch it. Oh, it was epic, man. Back in the day when music videos were on MTV, like 24/7. But you missed out, yeah, for sure. Because there were some really good fucking music videos, for sure. Anyway, back to this book.
Also, going back to what I was saying about that Shakespeare in Love, 12th Night is what he was starting to write at the end of that movie.
Gotcha.
Which isn't 12th Night actually a comedy? So maybe I'm wrong.
I really don't know.
But I don't.
Well, I pulled up the list of Shakespeare.
My thought process is working, but I'm thinking 12th Night is a comedy. I don't know. I went through a phase, though, again, shout out to Gwyneth Paltrow and Shakespeare in Love. I loved that movie so much. I mean, I made my husband watch it when we were first dating because I was like, you need to see this movie. It's old, but I don't care. You need to watch it. Like, I loved it. So I went through the Shakespeare phase after that.
So yeah, okay. So going back to this book, the thing with this book is that it's hard like to mark stuff the way that we were marking in the first book because it's not as much. It's not written in as much of a mystery. So there's no you don't feel that same kind of sense of urgency to figure out what's happening, and there aren't as many breadcrumbs. I mean, there might be, but they're subtle. Yeah. And she hasn't really given us like an outcome to grab onto. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know I do.
There's this mystery, but we don't even know what it is we're supposed to be like really caring about. I mean, obviously we know we're supposed to care about like why Oliver's in jail. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't feel like there's like a big story here that I'm really like grabbing onto and like I have to know.
I agree, and I think that might be part of the reason why I'm struggling a little bit for lack of a better word, just like it as much as you two are liking it. I love that you guys are liking it though. And talking about it with you, I can understand why you are liking it.
Yeah, like I said, for me, it's more just like a story about these people, not necessarily a story about a mystery. It's a story about these 7 players, which is exactly how it started out. And then all this shit just happened.
Yeah.
It's not.
And I wonder, I'd like to go into the next act, Act 4, maybe thinking about it more like that, more like how you're thinking about it, because I did just go into it like, oh, we picked it off of our mystery shelf. It's going to be a nice little murder mystery, and it just hasn't been. So maybe going into the next act, I just need to change my mindset a little.
You had expectations.
I did.
How dare you? How dare you?
I did. And again,
gotta cut that shit out.
I know, I did have expectations. And again, I think it's really smart of her to follow all of these Shakespeare tropes. Like what, happens in Shakespeare tragedies is happening right now in the book. What happens in Shakespeare comedies, you see that in some of the the conversations between the characters. So
yeah,
she's very smart. She knows what she's doing. And I appreciate that aspect of it. I think, exactly, my expectations were a little too high, maybe.
I think that's why I like the book, is because I appreciate her writing and I appreciate her knowledge and, like, all of the research. And, yet, Rose, like you said in the last pod, just how well-versed she must be in Shakespeare in order to just pull random lines from random plays.
Yeah, somehow she blends
make them part of the dialogue.
She blends multiple plays into this story, and it works.
Yeah.
Like, how do you have multiple plays coming together and this story, and it flows perfectly? Like, that doesn't comprehend in my brain.
Right. I appreciate the intelligence of that. So I think that's
agree.
one of the things that I like about it. Because this, like, the story itself isn't what's keeping me reading, I don't think. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Oliver and James is what's keeping me reading. I want to smack Oliver, and I feel bad for James. And I'm just like, get your shit together.
Why?
But I read a lot of romance.
Why do you feel bad for James if we are certain that James killed somebody? Why do you feel bad?
I feel bad because of him and Oliver's relationship and the way that, like, Richard has treated him, and the fact that James has been wanting a, like, hero role but was kept getting shoved into the villain role his entire time at school. And I feel like a lot of things just kind of, like, piled up on him. That's, I guess, I'm not saying that that's an excuse for murder, but
no, I was just,
but I get it.
No, I was just totally curious of where you were coming from.
If you find anyone with a beaten face in a lake nearby, it wasn't me. Was not me.
Well, I don't know about that now.
How do we feel about Oliver and Meredith? Well, I know how I feel. How do you feel about Oliver and Meredith? How do you feel about Meredith in general?
I could
Meredith
tell
in general annoys me. Yeah.
Meredith
I just think she's the typical attention whore that every story like this needs.
See, I had thought that, so I still think that. I don't like her. But on the flip side, she has been cast routinely her entire life as that person, and was kind of, that's how she makes a living, basically. That's the way that she gets put in these plays, is because she's beautiful. So I'm like, at what point does that become your personality, even if that wasn't, like, the goal to begin with? You know what I'm saying? Like, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do, and if you got a hot bod and that's how you can make it in show business, then that's what you're going to do to make it in show business, you know? But that doesn't mean, like, sure, she's kind of, like, bitchy.
Doesn't mean you have to lack depth, though.
Yeah. But, like, Oliver mentions multiple times that, like, he's worried that they're only seeing what they want to see with her.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know if we're getting the whole story.
Maybe not.
That's true. It would be cool to see, like, a different side of her, like a more somebody with depth, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's my biggest problem. You know, I'm enjoying the writing, but you say you like that it's character driven, but I just don't feel like I know enough about these characters. Like, especially the female characters, there isn't a strong female character. Like, Meredith is the one that is the most present, but we still just don't really know that much about her. And Philippa's just been, you know, on the periphery the whole time. And Ren, it's like, okay, we know she was Richard's cousin. She's said a few things here and there. What else do we, like, really know about any of them? Like, there just hasn't been much development with any of the women.
I think that's the whole that's the mystery aspect of it, which I know isn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be the murder thing, but, like, the whole point is we don't know enough of these characters to know who did it and to know where each one falls in this whole investigation. So, I think that's part of it, and, like, the fact that I don't know intrigues me more. Like, I want to know more about these characters, and we're getting it in bits and pieces, how Oliver sees them, because Oliver doesn't know all of them, which is something I think is also key, because they're supposed to be best friends. They've lived with each other for 4 years, and they're super close, and yet they barely know anything about each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some mystery between them. But what you were saying, Amy, that kind of, again, goes back to typical Shakespeare. You don't really get to know the female characters.
True, you're right. So that might be intentional.
I don't know. Maybe it's intentional. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
It very well maybe. I mean, listen, if she knows as much as she does about Shakespeare, she's gonna do it right. You know. So I'm sure there probably is a reason for all of these things that that we're talking about. So
I just can't wait to get to the end and know the answers.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. And I seriously, I just want to be wrong.
Yeah, for sure. I just want something to blow my... I want it to blow my mind. I just want to be like, holy shit, I did not see that coming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
I
think you said it right, though, Amy, when you said that, you know, House of Hollow, there was so much mystery and so much intensity to, like, every chapter that we were reading that my book is just full of tabs for House of Hollow.
And but then half of them fell through.
True.
It doesn't matter, though, but it got us hooked.
There was a difference. It was a different reading experience for sure.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say that this is a bad reading experience. I'm just...
Yeah, I get really frustrated when there are things given to me in a book and then nothing develops from them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm enjoying this one more than House of Hollow.
Oh, really?
And I might be the only one. I really like this one.
I'm enjoying the book for sure. I cannot say that I'm enjoying it more than House of Hollow, but I am enjoying it. It might not sound that way because I think a lot of things I said today were kind of critical, but I really am.
But you can critique something and still enjoy it, you know?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worst part is when I feel so blah about something that I really have nothing to say. And I'm just like, eh.
Yeah, that's true. I also love that I feel like with House of Hollow, the three of us were kind of always on the same page for the most part. And I kind of love that we have like 3 different levels of how we're enjoying this book.
True.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm able to hear a different perspective this time around from you, Rose, and from you, Amy, than I did with the first book. Because we always kind of
said the same things and had the same highlights.
And even if we had like different thoughts on something, we'd be like, oh my god, yes, or something like that.
Except for the vampire thing. That was dumb.
That was not dumb, okay? It was possible. And there were some decent clues. And I said, hold on, everyone, hold the fucking phone. Let me get in here. Listen, I said they were so hungry because they were dead or because, like, regular food couldn't sate them the way that, like, something else could, maybe blood. And that was true. So you can shove that in your pipe and fucking smoke it.
You just got so fired up. I love it. Oh, God. Well.
Don't come for me. Oh, man. Well, on that note. Do we have anything more to say on If We Were Villains?
No.
Not at the moment.
Except I thought it was really cute that James cuddled with Oliver when he came to his house. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no way he doesn't have feelings for Oliver. If he has feelings for both him and Ren, I don't know.
Maybe James is
it's
bi.
Possible.
Or if he just... I don't know if he loves Ren. I don't know. Does Oliver think he does? Yes. Does he actually? I don't know. Are they just really good friends? I don't know.
Maybe everyone is just gay. Because, let's be honest.
That's how it is,
just
right?
the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at my new pin. Can you see it?
I can't see it. It's too blurry.
No, it's a library card.
Square.
It's a library card.
Oh, cute.
Oh.
But it's gay.
Did you get that at work?
Uh-huh.
Although, you know what I'm going to do, actually, instead of buying this stuff from there, I think I'm going to do an order with HRC, because there's a bunch of stuff on the Human Rights Campaign website that I want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I'm going to buy that stuff, because then the money goes to HRC.
Yeah, I also like to buy
That's what I'm
things
gonna do.
like from independent artists as well, especially queer artists. But they were there.
Indubitably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I understand. I understand totally. If I were there, I would have bought them as well.
All right. Well, we have just finished discussing acts 2 and 3. 2 and 3 because I was dumb. So sorry for this episode being a little late. Totally my fault. I'll take that one. But it's been a good time, and next week we're going to do Act 4, not 4 and 5, just 4, because I learned my lesson, just 4. This book is a little more like brain intense. I don't know. It's a little harder to read. It's not as quick of a read as House of Hollows, so taking it a little slower. So we're only going to do Act 4 for next week. Also, if you haven't voted for our next pick, please do so. It's in our Discord server under the channel voting. We want to be able to get that vote done by next week so that everybody listening who wants to read with us next month will be able to, and we'll have adequate time to get the book. Because I know that this book, some people had issues getting it in time. Amy had issues getting it in time to start reading. So we're going to try to give you 2 weeks or more to be able to get the book before we actually start the podcast for it. What that book will be, I don't know. Vote for it and we'll find out. And then we will see you next week. Okay. Bye, guys.
Indeed. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.